from BriPublish team, and today we have Mishika Sood with us to share about her journey of writing a book, A Blade Between Worlds, and her experiences as an author. Mishika, over to you. Can you please give a little introduction about yourself and explain what your book is all about?
Of course. Hello, everyone. My name is Mishika Sood. I am a second year student in Blackshire University. I am from Himachal Pradesh and I'm currently pursuing my BTech in computer science and artificial intelligence. I know very different field from, literature and writing a book, but I've always been a huge fan of fiction. I've always been an avid reader myself. And my book, A Blade Between Worlds, it's about a war scene where two opposing parts of the world are at war, and one of their major commanders, both of the world's major commanders, they are in opposing fields, and how they come together to battle some bigger outer forces, and in the process, fall in love, have that sort of connection whilst saving the world, whilst battling duties over emotions and those sort of themes.
Wonderful, one very different theme, genre to pick up and then frame a story. So it's very interesting that you wrote this book. Is this your first book, published book?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, it is. It is my first written book and first published book for sure.
Lovely. Congratulations for that, Mishika.
Thank you so much.
So,
Thank you.
tell me, Mishika, that obviously, you wouldn't have, started writing just like that. So, how did your journey of writing happen, and what were the benefits that you gained? If you look back into your writing journey, can you please share something for the.
Of course. Of course. So, I think I was in around fifth grade when I started journaling, and my mother instilled that habit in me to, journal about like the key points of your days and gratefulness journal and all of those things. So that habit came from there, and eventually, as I grew in around eighth, ninth grade, I started doing poetry. That was just a personal interest of mine to, delve into fiction because I'd always been an avid reader and I loved fiction. I still do. So that's how it began. I think one advice that I would definitely give to all pursuing authors, all people who want to write, is that, all of us probably have a lots of plots and a lot of stories going around in our heads. These two people, that will happen. Like, the plot, how it could go. I think one of the major things that I didn't myself realize could be a harder thing would be to sit down and then start writing chapters. So I think it's very easy to lose consistency there. It's very easy to completely rotate your plot and all of those things. But one thing for sure, if you're sitting down every day and you're dedicating time to, the imagination in your head and you're giving due time and due respect to those characters, then I think it's a very beautiful journey to be on. And I think it can be a very good experience, I think, for yourself as a writer and for all the other people who get to read your book as well.
Correct. It becomes a very enjoyable read, I guess, because
Yeah.
it's so original and so creative. So tell me, Mishi, I'm sure, you must be going through sometimes that block where you must be feeling that I'm not able to, uh, pull this more, or I'm not able to shape
Yeah,
it up the way it should. How do you deal with
definitely.
that kind of a situation when you face, such issues while writing your stories?
Yeah. I think it is firstly, very natural to feel those sort of blocks that come upon you when you're trying to paint your story forward. I think the first step is to the rigor and the passion you have. Then it's on you that you block out, say, 30 minutes out of your day and just sit down and type out, say, a page. You just don't let that consistency of writing break. It may be a situation where you're not even going to include that specific plot or that specific, sect of that thing that you wrote in your original book. But the habit of breaking the consistency of writing should not stop. I think that is very important.
Very, very valuable tip. Um, Tell me, when you published this book on
Yeah.
BriPublish, was it easy for you to do that, or was it time taking? Was it enjoyable? Can you share your experience of writing with
Of
us?
course. Yeah, I think it was one of the most enjoyable experiences. And it's definitely very memorable because it's my first book that got published. It's the first book that I wrote, and it held a very special, it still holds a very special place in my heart. The journey was, of course, it was challenging. I you know, when you're thinking of writing a book, you have certain notions. Okay, you will think of a plot and then you'll put it on paper. But once you start doing it, that's when you realize, oh, it's not as simple as that. It's a multi-layered process. There's a lot of editing, there's a lot of iterating over the same idea, going through your each chapter like 5, 6 times. And I think one has to be ready to enjoy that sort of rigor, that sort of rigorousness that writing a book demands. And so I think it can be an enjoyable experience. It can also be an experience where, like, okay, I am done. But then your body itself, because you love writing, you love fiction, it itself will evoke that feeling where, I cannot leave this in the midway. So I think it's a very enjoyable experience.
And what was your moment that when you published and had your first printed copy in your hand?
Yeah.
How did you feel?
I felt so proud. So, when I got the printed copy, I was still in my university. My new semester has started. So I called my mom and dad up and I was like, I've got it. I'm so happy. And they video called me. They were so happy. I think they were like 100 times more happy than I was, more excited about the whole process than I was. And it's just very nice to like have people around you who celebrate your wins, like such a huge scale. So my Nanu actually was a huge fan of literature. He used to read newspapers for hours in the morning, and he recently passed. So my one very like heartfelt wish was to like present that book to him. But the author's copy that I got, it's signed with my Nanu's name, and like that's a keepsake for me and my family.
Wonderful. And Vishika, what are your hobbies apart from, writing and reading, journaling?
Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm pursuing BTech in CS and AI. So usually, with the sort of, schedules we have, a lot of it is just like, grinding in university and getting those credits and doing projects. So, in general, reading, I think, is something that I usually take time apart for because it's my escape. Fiction or even non-fiction, it is my form of escape. Other than that, I practically devour all sorts of fictional content on the internet. It can be shows, it can be anime, it can be anything. But yeah, I do keep like specific time for that. I'm also a lot into yoga. It's very peaceful and it's very good for your body and your health. So that is something I enjoy as well.
Uh, Tell me, what kind of books when it comes for you to read? What kind of books do
Yeah.
you prefer reading?
Okay, so I've mostly read fiction all my life. So it's usually I love having a little bit of, tension between your two, three main characters and it delving into some emotional depth or in emotional subcontext sort of thing. But I do enjoy, I think my one of my favorite genres is like when two opposing people on opposite sides, it can be like enemies to friends or enemies to lovers. Those sort of genres are something that always capture my eye because I think in general life, if you think of it and try to portray it in general life, it's such a, complex feeling from going to like such opposites, like, the spectrum of feelings crossing all of those paths to like be on a different frequency with the other person. So I do enjoy that, emotional depth in reading books. I think it teaches you a lot about life and how to interact with people also. It helps you a lot in your emotional intelligence and all of those things as you interact in daily life as well.
Absolutely, I agree because uh, books are treasure. And I think way back, somebody said this to me when I was very young, I was in school only. that
Mm.
a book will, you keep reading the same book again and again. It'll never change. It'll keep telling you the same wisdom.
Yeah.
So he said that if you go to a person, the person can change, manipulate, but something which is jotted down in a book will
Yeah.
always be in that, uh, you know, uh, same capacity for you to understand.
Definitely.
Only thing
Yeah.
we as readers, we as people, evolve and we are, spectrum of understanding increases, our way of perception changes. So I totally agree. A book can be a very good friend.
Definitely, ma'am.
So, Mishika, what are your expectations when it comes to, writing another book? I'm sure with your excitement and the way you have completed your
Yes.
first work,
Yeah.
how do you see yourself as a, writer in coming years?
So I, of course, don't ever wish to stop writing. That is my one true love in life. But I think in terms of something specific to change, I would like to say that, I would like to dedicate more time to it. Like I said, this being my first book, I was only able to like give it around a few weeks time to, get it done and send it over to the publishing house. But I think like I have bigger plots in mind, I have bigger stories to tell, and I think I would like to take like, months time to sit and like ideate and write it down and then do the whole iterative process of, proofreading, editing, all of those things so that I can in the future produce more cohesive books. In the future, I can create more bigger books in terms of maybe duologies or trilogies, bigger, a story being bigger than one book, it spans onto multiple books and multiple characters. That is something I would definitely like to delve into.
And according to you, Mishika, what storytelling can do to people?
I'm
What are
sorry, I
you?
didn't get that.
So, according to you, what storytelling can do to people, or how can it impact people, outside in the outside world? How important it is to tell stories?
I think, ma'am, storytelling is a strong form of human expression and human creativity. And I think every person has that innately in them, right? When we're able to channel that and are able to give it out, I think it is a huge relief and a huge form of, this feeling of relief, this feeling of positivity that you expressed yourself authentically, of course. And I think it also requires you to level up in terms of your emotional standing, in terms of your emotional intelligence. And in order to write that book, and then in order to do the storytelling, and then in order to listen to that storytelling and to perceive that storytelling, I think both sides get to elevate their emotional stance, their emotional stances. And I think it's a beautiful experience.
Lovely. This is, something very enlightening today that we had this conversation. I am so thankful, Vishika, for you to come and, do this podcast with us. And I wish you all the best for your upcoming work. And on this note, I'm going to wrap up today's, conversation
Thank you
with
so
you.
much, ma'am.
Thank
It
you
was an honor,
so
truly.
much. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Vishika. All the best.